Welcome to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frazee. This week, we traveled down to Washington, D.C., joining a lineup of speakers, including both Ron and Rand Paul, at the Young Americans for Liberty annual convention. In the second half of our show, we'll be speaking with author, activist, and digital man of letters, Jeffrey Tucker. But first, let's grab a bench in the conference hallway and chat with Jeff Frazee, the founding executive director of the Young Americans for Liberty. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. It's an honor to be here.
We're here down in D.C., lunch break at the Young Americans for Liberty conference. Good Lord, you've managed to assemble college students from, 200 different campuses in 50 states?
That's correct. This is our largest event in our history.
Wow, which began in, 2008, the organization?
We started in 2008. This is our 6th annual YAL National Convention.
Well, we'll get into that for a minute, but I want you to roll the clock back for us a little bit. When you started as a student activist, I understand working with Ron Paul.
Correct, yeah. When I was in college, a roommate turned me on to the idea and the term libertarian. And I thought, wow, what does that mean? I didn't feel like I fit in with the left. I didn't feel like I fit in necessarily with the right. It was the George Bush years. It was something, I was disenchanted with the wars. And I was still felt conservative on economic policy, but I was curious about social policy, and the foreign policy I had already been lost on.
So you didn't have a political home in either party.
Exactly, and that's why my roommate said, you might be a libertarian, you should look into Ron Paul. And that opened up a whole world for me. I actually ended up getting an internship with Dr. Paul in the summer of 2005 in his Washington, D.C. office, and I actually met my later wife. She was his staff assistant, so I owe my life to Ron Paul.
Two in the family now.
Yes.
What's he been like to work with?
He is the most genuine, honest person you've ever met. He is authentic. He treats you like a grandson.
He certainly speaks his mind, that's for sure.
He will, and he does. And I guess I'm talking on a personal level. He's someone you would not suspect as a politician. He is a personal friend now.
Well, he was an obstetrician, right? Long before he was a politician.
Right. So I guess that's helped develop some of his mannerisms and personality.
I first discovered him back in the 80s. We should tell you how far back I've been following this guy. He was considered something of a kook back then. He was a hard money, sound money guy. That was his main issue. He was against the machinations of the Federal Reserve. It's interesting to see how most of his predictions have come true. The oddest thing about it is, how does this 70-something-year-old guy, how did he become cool with young people?
That's a great question. Yeah, he is probably the most uncool person when it comes to popular culture. He doesn't see movies. He couldn't tell you. He didn't keep up with the Kardashians.
This guy is such a fogey.
He doesn't do any of this, but it's his ideas. It's his authenticity, I think. And I think that's what resonates with young people. Even if I hear all the time, I don't necessarily agree with him on everything, but I appreciate his honesty. And that is a very attractive message.
If you look back at third-party movements in American history, going all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt and the Bull Moose Party, and you look at Ross Perot and his run, collected a lot of votes, or you look at Ralph Nader, who we've had on the show, none of them have left much of a lasting legacy. Ron Paul seems to be different. He seems to have his son carrying the ball now. How do you see it?
Well, I think Ron Paul was smart by running in the Republican Party rather than running as a third party. It kept him from being a quote-unquote fringe candidate. And what it allowed, it gave more credibility to his positions. It gave him a larger platform to share his message. And when we worked on the presidential campaign in 2008, I was his national youth coordinator.
Talk about that a little bit.
It was a wild ride. I got on very early on, when we were probably a staff of only 5 or 6.
Had you graduated already by then?
I'd already graduated. Okay. I graduated in 2006 from Texas A&M University, and went to work for an organization up here in Washington, D.C., and then as he started to launch his presidential campaign, I was volunteering. I was biting at the bit to join. I wanted to work for this effort.
I will confess to you, I was a McGovern campaign worker when I was in college.
Yeah. It's a fun thing to do. Everyone should work on a campaign once in their life, I think. So it was very early on, and at the time, our goals were just to make it to the end. Can we raise enough money to get to the end? Can we get into the debates? Can we get this message out there? And thanks to Rudy Giuliani and the time in that debate that he questioned Dr. Paul's foreign policy, that night I think the fundraising went through the roof.
No kidding.
The attention went through the roof. People heard something new, and it was fresh. Something that you don't hear in the mainstream media, you don't hear on TV often, you don't hear from politicians. And it got people interested. And our movement took off from there. The cat was out of the bag. And as the campaign wound down, I wanted to make sure that this wasn't the end. It wasn't just a one and done. And we continued this movement. We continued, as he called it, this revolution of ideas.
And really focusing on the young and really focusing on college campuses.
Right. Our membership's 15 to 39, but a bulk of our activity is on the college campuses.
You kick people out when they're 39?
We don't. We graduate them to a senior membership.
Okay. So when did YAL start?
So we formed in December of 2008 as a continuation of the Students for Ron Paul effort.
Okay.
And
so you inherited the staff, you inherited the people.
We didn't inherit much staff, and we didn't inherit much money, but we did inherit Dr. Paul's endorsement and a few of the dedicated activists who were involved in the campaign. And I'm very proud and fortunate to say that we've continued to grow ever since.
Talk a little bit about the organization.
Our mission is to identify, educate, train, and mobilize youth activists committed to winning on principle. We're looking to take the principles of liberty and learn how to win with them in the political process. So we're building college chapters all across the country, identifying leaders, educating them in the principles of liberty, training them to be effective, and then mobilizing them into the political process. So right now we have over 525 campus chapters across the country.
No kidding.
And it has grown every single semester. It's been nonstop growth. The ideas of liberty, libertarianism, I guess traditional conservatism, you might want to call it, is cool on campuses right now, believe it or not.
Now this is not Tea Party stuff. I mean, this is a completely separate activity.
I think so. I mean, the word Tea Party's been so misconstrued and attacked over the past few years that I don't even know what it believes anymore. I think the initial Tea Party, maybe, when we opposed the bailouts, when we were looking at this financial crisis, and here was government coming to the rescue, supposedly. That type of activity, it was crony capitalism. It was the idea of bailing out the banks, which inspired the Tea Party. And I think Ron Paul was Tea Party. He started the Tea Party in many ways. But since then, it has kind of gone in different directions, and the political establishment has done all it can to attack it and define it in a way that it wasn't initially formed. So it's a label that I don't know if I agree with at this time. I don't run from it, but at the same time, I think it's changed.
I think one of the things that's pleased and surprised me most about meeting all the young people here is that many of them have personal values that are socially conservative, but they understand the importance of being tolerant and opening up the tent and allowing for individual freedom. So there's this huge overlap with the left, with traditional ideas of the left. How does this cut across on campus? How do people think about Republicans and Democrats?
Well, that's exactly right. I think we get sometimes our personal beliefs mixed up with our political beliefs. And although many of our membership, although it ranges wildly, can be socially conservative, but they recognize that their political beliefs are libertarian. So they don't want to legislate morality, for example. They want to allow people to be free. As long as you don't harm others, as you don't take their stuff.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.
Exactly.
Who was it that said that? That was
a Matt Kibbe's book from FreedomWorks. Yes. So I think that's the kind of the traditional value. And although we don't agree with each other's lifestyles, but that's what makes our country great, is that there are people from all diverse backgrounds. And free people produce, I think, the wealthiest society for the most people.
So these kids actually take the separation of church and state seriously.
Of course.
Even though they go to church.
Of course, yes. Their personal beliefs. And I think you get more virtue out of that. If you're not being forced to look in a certain way or believe in a certain thing, and you're able to pursue your own ambitions and pursue your own virtue, I think that's much more rewarding than trying to be dictated from a monolithic government.
So what do you make of Rand Paul's views on this?
So Senator Paul joined us for our kickoff event on Wednesday, along with 7 other members of Congress who are part of the Liberty Caucus on Capitol Hill. And he brought a message that was, again, live free. I think he called it the Leave Us Alone Coalition. People who want to be left alone by government and live their life socially, fiscally. They take ownership of their life and they do with it as they see fit.
And yet he's still a member of the Republican Party. He's forced to compromise if he wants to be effective politically. How are his compromises viewed by young folk?
Well, I think he's being strategic and very smart about the issues he emphasizes. There was the 18-hour filibuster he did last year, opposition to the NSA and the spying and the warrantless searches that our government is doing.
That resonates a lot.
And it crosses party lines. I don't think any American wants to be monitored or tracked or their privacy invaded, whether that be online or offline. And we have a process for that. There's a reason we have a constitution. And you can do that, and there's a process for it. It's through obtaining a warrant. And I think these general warrants that are being awarded fly in the face of what the Fourth Amendment was all about.
So how's the whole Snowden affair viewed on campus?
It's controversial, of course, but I think what he did as a whistleblower was very important to sharing the truth and shedding some light on what's going on in this secret bowels of our government.
And certainly we weren't aware of the depth of the problem.
Exactly, and I think people had theorized that this was the case, but there was no hard evidence, and he brought that evidence to bear. And it has, again, woken up so many people who are apathetic or people who had trust in their government that they wouldn't dare do this. And sure enough, they are. And we have an exclusive video that we're playing later at our convention from Glenn Greenwald, who will be addressing the audience. And he has helped be the advocate for Mr. Snowden. And it's unfortunate he's not allowed to come back to the country, I think.
I would perhaps put it another way. It's unfortunate that he didn't stay in the country and make an example of his civil disobedience. He ran off to Russia.
Well, I think he would have been thrown in jail immediately. I think he's trying to hold on to whatever freedom he has left. Now, I don't know if that was the right move.
What kind of freedom does he have in Russia right
exactly.
now?
I don't know. Well, I don't know if we'd have any more if he was here in the States. I think he would be in a jail cell. So I don't know if that's right.
You don't think he'd be out on bail with a huge defense fund and interviews and?
I guess that's a possibility, but I highly doubt it. I really think that they would have tried to shut him up as much and as fast as possible.
So you're talking about secret prison here?
Maybe. I honestly, I don't know. It's all hypothetical, and you can always question his decisions. Was going to Russia the right thing, and what is he doing in Russia? Is the Russian government working with him? Is he colluding with the government? No one knows.
Particularly now that the Cold War's restarted, this is frightening people.
And he's stuck. Yeah, he's stuck in a difficult position. I think what Obama should do is grant him a full pardon, come to the United States, discuss what he did. He should sit in front of the Senate and the House and present the evidence. And we should have a dialogue and debate about what is the proper role of government and what protects us under the Fourth Amendment.
So one of the topics that has been in the background, certainly since my college days, is putting an end to drug prohibition. We're finally seeing states take a role there. Colorado is serving as a very interesting example of what happens when recreational pot is legalized. How's this viewed on campus, and how do you see this rolling out?
Well, I think the drug war is something that impacts younger generations, for better or for worse. And it's something that they have come in confrontation with, or they have a friend or family member that has. And I think this is something public policy-wise that you're seeing change rapidly.
Well, the New York Times finally caught up with the National Review. It took about 25 years to come to the same editorial policy to end drug criminalization.
You're right. I think public opinion is shifting dramatically, and you're seeing public policy shift as a result. And the world is not coming to an end because Colorado legalized marijuana. And as a result, I think people are being more tolerant of other people's private activities.
Jeff, your generation is going to be stuck paying all the bills left behind by my generation. It looks pretty ugly. How do folks on campus view that?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. We have immense problem ahead of us. The liabilities that our government has promised, the size of the debt is too large to comprehend. I don't think anyone can really contextualize $1 trillion, let alone $17 trillion.
Right.
And if you add the liabilities, the number ranges from $100 to $200 trillion. And it's going to hit my generation head on.
Do they understand it? Do they do the math? Do they understand they've been lied to?
Of course, and I think they understand that this is not sustainable. And the path that we are heading on will result in collapse. Now, it's hard to look when that might happen. It's hard to think too far in the long term. You know, I wake up today, I'm still able to get my Starbucks coffee. The day seems normal. But there will come a day when the bills come due. And that could be a day of reckoning for our country. So there are some things that we've been doing on college campuses to make students aware of this. You know, each individual student's share of the national debt is $150,000. You know, you have this thought that student loan debt is added up, and how can I deal with this 20, 30, 40?
Yeah.
And now you have another $150,000 saddled around your neck. These are the problems that our generation is going to have to face, and you don't see much of a conversation about that on Capitol Hill. I think you only see people like Senator Paul who might be talking about this, who are trying to give reasonable solutions. The pain will come. There is no easy answer to this. You can't spin your way out of this. So we are continuing to look for solutions and try to put pressure on Capitol Hill to deal with this issue now before it becomes so large that the pain is great later.
And the Obama campaign did a marvelous job of rounding up the student vote, not once but twice. What's the legacy of that on campus now?
Well, the student vote did fall off in the 2012 campaign. Actually, the voters from 18 to 21 actually, I think, voted in the majority for Romney instead of Obama.
So is that true?
Yeah, it is true. So the people who did not vote in 2008 but didn't vote in 2012 actually voted for Romney over Obama.
Wow,
That demographic. So I'm not to say that Romney was the ideal candidate by any means.
He was voting against Obama more than voting for Romney.
Exactly, and even I was surprised at how quickly Obama's perception amongst young people and on college campuses has shifted. Obama was seen as the savior in so many ways by young people, and now Obama is no longer cool. In fact, it is the cool thing now is to bash Obama. And people have finally realized, or young people especially, have come to realize that he's just doubled down on George Bush's policies. He was not the hope and change they looked for. Young people still want hope and change.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
That message would still resonate today if it hasn't been damaged. But he did not deliver on hope and change.
Doesn't Obama bashing on campus label one as a racist?
I don't know. I don't think we bash Obama himself. I think we try to keep it centered around the issues, and we try to have a intellectual dialogue. We're not out for individual people to blame for the problem. It's the ideas that are at fault. So we try to have that conversation. No, we don't. We actually rather welcomed, I think, from both sides, because we don't take the political divide, and we are not saying that we are out to support Republicans because they're Republicans. We want to have the intellectual debate. And if you can keep it on those grounds, people are willing to have that conversation.
What does the demographic mix look like at YAL?
It ranges very widely. California is one of our strongest states. And if you go to our state convention out there, half of the demographics there are Hispanic and Asian.
And Republicans have not done well in those groups, at least with the Hispanics.
Right. But they are looking for the same thing any other racial group is looking for, a demographic group. It's opportunity. It's the chance to find a career or a job out of college. It's a stable financial structure. It's the protection of your civil liberties. I think our generation is very, very war-weary. We are worn down. We have had friends who have gone overseas and have not come home or have come back mentally or physically scarred. And that's wear down our generation. You know, the war in Afghanistan has been going on for, 10, 11 years now.
Well, it's your Vietnam.
And
I mean, with a lot few bodies, but it's still your Vietnam.
And the people who are now active in our organization, they were 9, 10 years old when 9/11 occurred. So they have grown up with this war. And like I said, they have seen their friends and family members go overseas and not come home or come back scarred. So I think they're very skeptical of these foreign interventions, and they have seen the lies that have come with them and the promised results that were not achieved. And so that gives us an opportunity to present our message, I believe.
One thing that pleasantly surprised me here in the last couple of days was I didn't see a lot of anger. I saw a lot of enthusiasm. I saw a lot of civility. The kids had me out drinking until 2 a.m. We closed the bars last night. I haven't had so much fun with young people in a while. There's a huge level of engagement here. How do you plan on harnessing that?
We're doing our best, but I think it comes from actually believing in something. It's not just opposition to what's occurring. We actually have principles for ideas. We see a brighter future for our country. So that's where it comes from. In terms of harnessing it, we're just trying to do our best to achieve our mission. We try to organize them on college chapters. We try to resource them with educational materials and get them engaged in the political process. Just give direction. Young people are innovative. They are inspired. They are looking to do something with their lives. And if we can just try to provide that opportunity and some direction, it's amazing how far they'll go.
In 10 years, everyone I met here will be off raising families, busy with their career. What do you see for the future of Young American for Liberty?
Well, I hope we continue to grow. I hope that the ideas continue to expand. I hope the notion of libertarianism becomes a mainstream political thought. And I hope some of the members here today, these are our top leaders from across the country. I hope they go off into positions of leadership, whether that means running a think tank or a political organization, whether it means running for office one day. We hope that the people here that are being involved in our organization will go off to do big things. And we try to present that message here, even at our convention. It's a message, try to inspire them to go off and be better than they are today.
So, Jeff, how can people learn more about YAL?
The first step is very easy. Just go to our website, yaliberty.org, and just sign up. We will get in contact with you. You're more than welcome to engage on our website, find a campus chapter, and get involved there at a local level. And even if you're not at the campus level, reach the local campus chapter and tell them that you're there as a resource and there for support. We're always looking for donations. It's the only way we continue to survive.
Okay.
So I would be remiss if I didn't give ourselves a shameless self-promotion there. But be engaged in the political process, I think. Don't check out. Find a way, even at a local level, to make a difference. And again, that's part of the message we try to present here at our convention, is to find a way, find your avenue, whether it be academia, business, or politics, to do more and something beyond yourself, to change the direction of this country, to do something that will leave our country better off than you had it.
Jeff, as the oldest guy here, now that Ron Paul has gone home, I've got to thank you for inviting me. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Bill.
We've been speaking with Jeff Frazee, founding executive director of the Young Americans for Liberty, here on Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frazee. Ahead, Jeffrey Tucker, CEO of Liberty.me and the publisher of laissez-faire books, will regale us with stories and insights from the front lines of cyberspace as seen by a man of letters. Stay tuned.